Jagmeet Singh. Now on Friday, Justin Trudeau attended an anti-racism rally on Parliament Hill that was fueled, of course, by the killing of George Floyd. He knelt down in an act of solidarity. Still, some protesters chanted, "Stand up to Trump." Others cheered him. Let's get the government's response to what Mr. Singh has just said. Joining me now is the Diversity and Inclusion Minister Bardish Chagger. Always good to have you on the program, and hope you and yours are safe. Mr. Chagger, Jagmeet Singh just called the Prime Minister's silence on President Trump an act of cowardice, and he called Mr. Trump a racist. What's your response to that?
I'll have to say, Evan, what's clear is that systemic racism exists in Canada. Anti-Black racism, anti-Indigenous racism. With COVID-19, we've seen the return of the rise of anti-Asian racism in Canada. So for myself, as much as we can comment on other countries, we need to get our own house in order. Canada is proud to be an inclusive country, but what's clear is we have a lot more work to do if we want to be a truly inclusive Canada.
That's fair, 100%. We have a lot of work to do in this country. But the Prime Minister has said on Friday his job is to stand up for Canadian values around the world. He has done so, as many governments have done, criticizing the Chinese on Hong Kong, criticizing the Saudi Arabians, criticizing Russia on LGBTQ issues. Many prime ministers have done so before. Why can't Mr. Trudeau, or should he, do the same more specifically with Donald Trump?
Our government has been clear. We do not condone racism and discrimination. We say that, and we recognize racism and discrimination have no place in Canada. What is clear is that racism exists in Canada. There is discrimination within our institutions, within our hiring practices, and we have a lot of work to do. When Prime Minister Trudeau was on the international stage, he talked about our history with Indigenous peoples. And this is something that we need to reflect upon. It's not just good enough to be better than another country. In Canada, we should do the best that we can, and we should make the changes that are necessary so that we actually have outcomes and results. And that's what I
appreciate that. Mr. Singh's point is that you can do both. He said, that 21 seconds of silence, he said he was avoiding it. And he, for example, look, Jean Chrétien said no to the Iraq War to President Bush. Brian Mulroney clashed with Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher over apartheid in South Africa. How can we expect the average Canadian to stand up against racism if, when asked specifically about Donald Trump's actions, which your government clearly doesn't condone, the Prime Minister refuses to say anything?
I believe that the Prime Minister and our government are recognizing that we have work to do in Canada. Even when we came out with the anti-racism strategy in Canada, there was many people making commentary about why is it needed. What we see in our actions and the video footage that's been coming out within Canada is that we do have an issue in Canada, and we do need to respond to that issue. And it's going to take federal leadership. If you look at the anti-racism strategy that was created by Black Canadians, racialized Canadians, to lay a foundation on the way forward, the first pillar is regarding demonstrating federal leadership. And it will take federal leadership because every single one of us has a job to do.
So let's talk about, I want to talk about that federal leadership, because you've talked a lot about it. So I'm trying to figure out concrete measures. For example, regarding the RCMP, there was an officer seen on video in Nunavut knocking a man down with his door. What concrete steps will your government take regarding the RCMP?
And I'll tell you that's exactly part of my mandate, is ensuring that I'm working with all federal departments and agencies. A step that we've already taken is ensuring that the decision-making table is more reflective of Canada. Have we gotten there? No. Is there work to do? Yes. Have we taken steps to ensure that we have a more open, transparent, merit-based appointment process? Yes. We see more diversity being reflected, but we're not there yet. And Evan, I'll say in regards to our federal institutions and agencies, we need to make sure that there is unconscious bias training. Racism is learned, and it's important that those behaviors be unlearned so that we can do a better job and have better outcomes.
All right, I got to leave it there. Mr. Bardish Chagger, good to have you on the program. Coming up.